Thank you, Judge.
While Republicans in the House and Senate go back and forth over whether they will support Speaker Boehner's plan to raise the debt ceiling, there's one member of the House of Representatives who could not be clearer on the subject. No increase in the debt ceiling. No way, no how. Here to explain is Texas Republican Congressman and presidential candidate Ron Paul. Congressman Paul, as always, it's a pleasure. Welcome back to Freedom Watch.
Thank you, Judge. Good to be with you.
What are the chances that the sound government, the sound money, small government attitude that you represent so well, that so many millions of Americans sent people to the House of Representatives to put into effect, will prevail and the debt ceiling will not go up? Or is it a hopeless case? Is it going to go up no matter what the logical arguments against it may be?
I think it's going to go up because everybody will be scared into it. And I think all the talk here in these last several days is mostly politics, and it's sort of like the CR resolution being passed at the last minute. So it's who's going to get blamed and when and who's going to get the credit. But I think it'll go up. I don't think on long term it makes a whole lot of difference because the country has to default because we can't pay this debt. It's just a matter of how we pay it. But I think this is political grandstanding, but I think in the last minute, the debt level will be increased.
Give us the argument in a nutshell about why you, Ron Paul, and many other Tea Party endorsed and small government colleagues of yours oppose any increase in the debt ceiling, no matter what promises accompany those increases.
Well, mine will be a little bit different than others, but basically I think many would agree that we have to stop the spending. If you don't increase the level, then we have to get our house in order. For me, it's a little bit different because I think the default is coming, and I'm looking at how you default. Governments in countries that get this far in debt never pay their bills. And you can default by not sending the checks out, and that's what they're afraid they would have to pursue, if they don't get a debt level increase. That's why I say they will, because all countries keep sending the check out. The real default and the real danger, if we continue to do this, is the default through the devaluation of the currency, and that's translated into paying for it through higher prices. I think that's going to be chaotic because we just can't keep up. I think it'll force us to have a change in foreign policy and spending policies here at home. But I think you have to go through a rough time in order to get the people convinced. Some of the kind of things you're seeing in Greece right now, I'm afraid we'll have to face up to this. But the default is going to come. But I do believe very sincerely they're not going to opt for defaulting by not sending the checks out and paying the interest on the debt. That's not going to happen. I'm very certain that there will be no default on our debt and financing our debt.
Isn't this a golden opportunity, rare in American political history, to shrink the government back into the confines of the Constitution, to force it to live within its means? And isn't this an easy thing to do? The Republicans run the House. All they have to do is say no, and the argument is over. The borrowing is over. The government starts obeying the laws of economics and the Constitution for the first time in over 100 years.
Well, it'd be nice to think that, but politics works differently, and when there's any life left into the entitlement system, it's going to stay alive, and it gets louder and angrier. And there are just as maybe more people getting checks than people who are producing. So those of us who would like to stop, don't have quite as many allies. So I think it's going to get a lot worse before they wake up. I think the government has to. They're not functioning very well, and people realizing how bad it is. But I don't think we're going to just clean up our act until government no longer functions. And then we'll have to say, well, what kind of a monetary system do we want? What kind of a foreign policy do we have to have? And what kind of a Department of Homeland Security do we want? But that's not on the verge of happening, and hopefully it will come soon. But I believe it'll come within the next year or two. We'll be forced into doing it, which you wished by common sense that we would do it right now. But unfortunately, I can't tell you they're going to do it.
Before I let you go, we have about a half a minute left. You're not only a member of Congress, you're running for the Republican presidential nomination. When you make the arguments to the voters in Iowa and New Hampshire and wherever else you've been going, like you just made to our viewers, how do they respond to this?
Very, very favorably, and more so than before. I always thought, well, my supporters come out, but now the crowds are larger and they're looking different. So this message is being listened to, but out of necessity, if nothing else. So yes, there's a bigger audience, and we have to keep working on it. because we can win this. We must win it because we're not going to have much left if we don't win.
Congressman Ron Paul, thanks very much for joining.